Hi, I'm Martha Beck.
And I'm Rowan Mangan, and this is another episode, not just another episode, a special episode of Bewildered, the podcast for people trying to figure it out. And we've got friends.
Yes, we finally have friends.
It's so exciting.
And they're helping us figure it out.
They are probably closer to having it figured out than anyone I've ever met. Yeah.
I think so too.
Oh my
yes.
God.
And Amy's written a book. Actually, they work together.
Let's let them introduce themselves.
Well, why?
Because
I want to talk.
I want to hear their 2-minute, I want you to bio yourselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Please introduce yourself.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Amie McNee.
Hello, Amie McNee.
And I am so grateful to be here. So I am a writer, author, creativity coach, and my book, We Need Your Art, is out. And basically what it's here to do is remind you that you are here on this earth to make things and to use your incredible brain to create, to remind you that this is serious, that this is important, and that now more than ever before, we absolutely need you to start taking art seriously. And so that is the crux of my work. I basically just bully people to make them create things.
Perfect.
It's working. It worked on me. I mean, I read this book when it first got to me in galleys, and it gave me this surge of creativity that went beyond writing. And then I kind of wilted, and I read it again before this interview, and it was like watering a plant. I just said, I can make art again. Amy's a magician, really.
I'm so grateful, Martha.
And I'm James. I'm Amy's partner. I like to call myself her support person. And I think I'm here because we needed a 3-to-1 ratio of Australians to Americans.
Always.
I think that's now international
Always.
The
law.
world should be
right?
that way.
That's what it has to be. And I am along for the ride with Amy. I guess I describe myself maybe as sort of like a research assistant / I kind of do the taxes, but also, first pass editorial. I'm kind of like in the background frame. I feel like I'm like the Rowan. I'm the Rowan.
There's a reason that
We're on this side.
Yeah. It's something like, what do the Australians do? Well, just a bit of everything, really.
Yeah, just, you know what?
Bit of
Whatever
this,
needs
bit of
done,
that.
roll up your sleeve.
Yeah, no worries. We'll take care of it.
Go rescue a wallaby.
Because I really think of you as British, even though
I have
Yeah,
a funny
I do
accent
too.
as
I do
well.
too.
So
You have a both
it is hard
accent.
to
Amy
put
has
down.
both passports, so
I do,
it's
yeah.
accurate to say either way.
Yeah.
nice.
Ooh.
Nice.
I know, very
Oh,
fancy.
so liminal, so ambivalent. I love that.
Mysterious.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Mysterious and ninja.
She goes really posh when has to public speak, so she'll suddenly become very Oxfordian
I
throughout
will.
the course of this
I
podcast.
certainly will.
But then when we're by ourselves, it's a lot of F's and C's in the broad Australian accent.
I just want to let you know this is a safe space for your F's and C's.
Thank you
Perfect.
so fucking
Perfect.
much.
Very, very welcomed here.
Thank you.
in the
One of my
Bewildered world.
favorite things in the book is she makes a special stipulation at the beginning. I love the word fuck. Okay. So in order to get this published the way the publishers wanted, I have substituted the word screw. I mean fuck. It's like-
They allowed me the asterisks, thank God.
Oh, good.
I was like, I need people to understand that this is a really important part of my vocabulary.
Me
That-
too.
It's so important to me.
It is le mot juste.
Oh, Martha
so
gets
many
it. Of course,
incidents.
Martha gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love to say fuck. I have a necklace on right now that says fuck.
I saw that. I
Yeah.
love that necklace. I
Thank
actually
you.
want it.
Yeah, you need that.
But don't you think it's not a very shocking thing in Australia, right? It's
No.
just like
No.
it's just like us saying so or like or
Well, it's like they say that Australians, like an Australian is someone who call their enemy mate and their friend cunt.
Yes.
Like,
And my little
Exactly,
American
yeah.
ears are like, ah!
Yeah, it does shock people that saying cunt to Brits as well. They're not good
man.
with it.
Well, it depends. Like I feel like the further north you go,
Yeah,
the more
interesting.
appropriate it is. But we live in Oxfordshire, so
Swearing fascinates me because I think it's a rule that I love to break, and it really does upset people very much.
Yeah.
Very much. I get
It
a
just-
lot of flack for it.
It's what you're about, really.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, Martha.
Oh, keep talking.
Someone said the other day, I'm really excited to get your book and I really support your work, but I just want you to know that whenever you swear, I get very disappointed in you.
Thanks, Mom.
And I was like, oh, fuck.
Oh my God. Disappointed in you. That is so great because that is like what we're kind of talking about with how the culture sounds. And so often the culture just sounds generally disappointed in us.
Very disappointed.
Very
I'm not
disappointed.
mad. I'm
It's just I'm disappointed. Yeah.
And so I had this. So the book is called We Need Your Art.
Yes.
fucking great title right there. And I was falling asleep last night thinking about this book, listening to this book, and I had this revelation, only partially inspired by the Ambien that I had consumed.
In quantity.
in quality.
American brain.
And that was that. I thought about that, you know, that Uncle Sam poster of the Your Country Needs You.
Yeah, we need you.
Yeah.
It's We Want You for the Navy, I think.
That's
it
right.
is.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
the army. It was
Oh,
all
the
the
army,
armed
yeah,
services.
yeah.
It was during World War II.
And so this title, We Need Your Art, I love so much because it comes out at you in the pure voice of the culture. And so you get yourself, as the title begins, you get yourself like girded and galvanized and ready for, what does it need me for?
Ready to be used.
Yeah, does it need my life for cannon fodder? Does it need my labor to be exploited to keep billionaires in yachts?
Billionairing.
Yeah. And then when you say the word art at the end of that sentence, we need your art, it's like it turns it into this like Zen koan of like paradox and invitation. And I feel like one of the things that I've heard Marty talk about a lot with the way that our brains are structured is that our right hemispheres of our brains, where all our creativity tends to come from, oversimplification.
Stipulated.
One of the things that the right hemisphere also does is it likes to solve mysteries. And we're kind of all fans of mysteries in the fiction world, right? And I feel like that's what you create. When you go, we need your art, it's like, huh? How can you need something that is not economically like rational in that way?
And yet, like with my sociological training, it is so deeply true because all those consumptive and extractive things that the culture has been doing to people for the last few hundred years have come to a point, a precipice, a break. And we keep hearing about unprecedented levels of problem. And I'm not even going to talk about what they are.
Unprecedented, did you say?
Unprecedented.
Well, yeah.
If only.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like the ecosystems and the people and the societal impacts and the markets and everything. They're all shattering. And what do you need to solve an unprecedented problem?
Yeah.
You cannot use the old calculations, the old strategies of logic. And so what part of your brain is best equipped to encounter an unprecedented problem and solve it? The side that does art.
So can we ask you, Amie, like, why, like I have these two words ringing in my head, even now, like, which I feel like a lot of people listening will be in that mode of unprecedented. And so can I ask you, like, to kick us off, like, why do we need our art even now?
Even now.
Yes.
Especially now. I think this has been almost one of the most heartbreaking parts of this journey of putting this book out there in the world is that when I say we need your art, people are like, well, not right now.
Yes.
Like, have you seen the world? Like, it's a disaster out there. Like, I'm not going to spend my time, like, having a play with my paints when there's a crisis going on. Like, that's been almost one of the most devastating responses I've been getting, and I've been seeing it a lot. People are like, it's not for hard times. Art is for peace times, for when we're safe. And trying to retell that story that art is for when it's very, very difficult.
That's right.
I mean, art is for always, but it has never been more needed than right now.
Absolutely.
But people are really struggling with me saying, I need you to sit down at your piano and I need you to sing, and that's going to solve problems. People are like, no, it fucking isn't. I'm avoiding, or I'm numbing, and not understanding the power that creativity and the arts gives us, and the role of the artist in building this next step. Building this future world. And we have to build something different now. And we need our creative faculties to do so, because profound change is needed, and change is made by the artists. And people are refusing to see that that is the artist's job, because we've lived in a culture that sidelines creativity for so long, that's seen it as frivolous, as, you know, for perhaps those who have spare time, for the lazy. the story is bullcrap, it's shit, and it's been told to us to keep us silent and small.
Yeah.
And we now need to take our paintbrushes, our phones, if we're filming stuff, like our pens, and we need to fucking do something about it. Like, it is the artist's job to create this next phase.
And one thing that I feel like is just exactly in line with what you're saying is that it's not the story that gets told it's for when there's spare time. It's for, it's for the idle rich or whatever it is like that. But that's not actually the agenda. The agenda is if you stay in the left hemisphere of your brain, if you continue to give your life for cannon fodder and give your labor for billionaires because you aren't questioning. And as soon as you get out your paintbrush or sit down at the piano, you open up a way of thinking that creates where there was like that creates everything from amazing art to solutions to climate change.
Yes.
Right? And it's all coming from that same source that you have to start with paintbrushes or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, I was fascinated to learn that James he and I share a special interest, but he's much better at it than I am. He understands what happened in Rome and the fall of the Roman Empire. And we were talking as we walked to the studio about what brought Rome down. We didn't get to my next point, which was what came up through the cracks. I mean, I sort of know, but I haven't gone back and really scrutinized the history. And I think it's really pertinent now. Like it was it or was it not the creative people? I mean, I'm thinking Italian Renaissance, which was way, way after, more than a millennium after, I think. But when humanity started to thrive again, what I think happened partly is this flowering of the arts, and they reached back into the Greeks, and they reached back to the best of the Romans, and they incorporated it and started making art like the David, like the Mona Lisa. Could you speak to history a bit?
Of course. I mean, actually, Amie and I are both medievalists as well because we both did it at university. We did a lot of the same courses at university together. So Amie's actually going to be great to talk about this too. But I think something that's really interesting is, how do we preserved a lot of that information, through the monasteries, and we preserved a lot of that information. Like we had this time capsule of the arts that was sort of getting hidden and kept back, and then it was sort of unleashed, And then there's a bit more complicated than that because we also, when Europe began to go east and we looked to the Middle East, the Middle Eastern cultures had also preserved a lot of the Western art, because of there was a lot of cultural cross-pollination, and we kind of rediscovered a lot of that when we went east as well. But you're right, it was like, I mean, we got in so much trouble for calling it the Dark Ages, and we're not allowed to call it the Dark Ages.
The medieval times.
Yes, and the medieval times kind of means that the in-between, the middle times.
The problematic times.
Yeah, but it was actually, I mean, Amie, you'll be able to speak to this better than me, but like, art was still going on everywhere in medieval times. It wasn't like, maybe it wasn't the high art, but, I mean, Amie literally writes historical fiction about medieval Europe.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like this idea that we don't call it the dark time, the dark ages. Yeah, this was definitely a no-no because it's not true. It's like this emerging of like playing and creating, and you see like medieval paintings and we laugh at them now because they seem very basic, those hilarious pictures of like dogs that don't look quite like dogs. But there's like this almost like experimentation of like how we want to express ourselves that moves into the Renaissance period. And I specialized in medieval pornography, medieval sex work, and medieval like erotica, essentially. And let me tell you, they were writing and drawing like some seriously randy and fun and exciting things. Like art existed, and was being created and had emerged from that era. And then I guess there was an elevation, I guess, when the Renaissance came.
So right now, would you say like where?
Yeah, it
feels a bit like the barbarians. We're in there are no barbarians. We are the barbarians. Okay. They're in, the call is coming from inside the house for us Americans. So like, how do we preserve, how do we cloister, as it were, and keep making our art no matter what? Because that's what I loved about reading your book for the second time after some history had passed was, you speak in the first person. I need you to paint.
I do.
I need you to play the piano. And to have someone saying, I need that. It took me into a part of myself that was compassionate and cooperative rather than just scared shitless. And
Well, you created a pathway through the left hemisphere to the right hemisphere by
Yeah.
saying that, because it kicks into our obedient. Oh, you need me to, okay, I'm showing up for, reporting for duty. And then you're like,
I
make
get to
something
play.
more.
Yeah.
So how does that
permission.
work for the two of you? You're both incredibly creative. You have this great podcast. You're promoting this wonderful book. Do you feel like you're a cloister creating beautiful illuminated manuscripts? Like, how do you position yourselves in the world? And what can you tell us about how to be creative, to find other creatives, to be in creative community with others? Like, we need your lessons about we need your art.
Thank you,
Tell us what
Martha.
to do, please.
Please tell us what
All right,
to do.
guys, sit down.
All
Okay. I need you, and you're going to be really surprised to hear me say this. I need you to make some art.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Why?
Yeah, I mean, for us, this journey is going to be huge. I think when we commit to our creativity, we're committing to seeing like all of our darkness and all of our light.
Yeah.
Like, this is not just a commitment to the creative act, like the craft. This is a commitment to ourselves. And I think that is why this trip of, or this demand that I'm making of us to make and produce art is not just, oh, that's nice, there's another painting in the world. Because when you made that painting, you made yourself. The making of art is the making of ourselves.
Yes.
And we need to understand that this is so much more than the product. And I think we've lived in a world that has said, oh, you know, art, okay, art's fine, but let's see the product. How much are you producing? How much is it worth? Not understanding the journey that creativity takes us on. So I think that's why a lot of people really struggle when they hear me say, we need your art. They're going like, well, I don't like, why? How is that actually going to make a difference? How is my, song that I'm putting out there going to make a difference? Or how is my book going to make a difference? And it's like, they in themselves will like create ripples of change, but it's also what's happening to you as you create that is going to make profound change in the world.
Yeah, because what fires together wires together in the brain. And if you're if you're inviting your right hemisphere to solve a problem, it does it in a very different way than the sort of procedural, logical left hemisphere, which adds up the numbers and tots up the totals and divides by 3 and then comes up with a solution, and it shows its work. The right hemisphere, which is the place where true creativity happens, it needs a problem pushed to the level of an impasse, absolute stuckness, and the fear and the anxiety that comes with that. And then it needs to go for a walk, and it needs to go look at art. It needs to watch someone paint a picture or listen to some music, like feed it art, and just don't even pay attention to anything else. And after a few days, a few weeks maybe, that problem you're wrestling with, the unsolvable problem, the total impasse, will dissolve into this burst of understanding, which then becomes your new way to live. And you, of course, rightly say your ultimate creation, artistic creation, is yourself. Your brain has rewired itself for a quantum leap toward the solving of a problem, and it can't do it without the ingredients of an impasse and art, taking in art.
I love that. There are two things there. Like, the resistance is the way is just such a beautiful, like, I love problem solving. And I think that's such an integral part of art that I never really realized. Like, all of the blocks that we get, me and James navigate all the time, it's always an opportunity for us to be more creative.
Okay, wait, slow it down, break it down. I want to hear how you take a problem and put your brilliant minds together with everything you know about the world. And so, like, give us an example.
Yeah, what problem have we faced lately,
I think it was
James?
like saying, we were talking on the way here as well, Martha, about David Wengrow and David Graeber's new book, Dawn of Everything, or not so new anymore.
So
and how
good.
the thing I love the most about them is that absolutely everything that they do, they go, is that true? Is that
right?
And kind of like you said, obviously you talk about one-way integrity with Byron Katie's work as well. Is that absolutely true? But you can apply that question to everything else. It's not just about your internal thoughts, right? It's like if you're trying to start a business and then you go, well, if I start a business, I have to have a 5-page business plan. I have to do this, this, and this. And you go, was that absolutely true?
Right.
And if that's not absolutely true, then what does that open up for me?
Yes.
And I think that's what we do all the time.
Yeah. I think, we've had a beautiful journey of putting this book out there, but I've definitely had things thrown our way that were a bit like, oh, okay. Like I had planned to come to New York. We were going to do events, and the publisher said, oh, nobody's asked for you. So that's not going to be any events.
my
I didn't know
God.
that that's what had to happen. And so, you know, like that could have been easily internalized. And they literally said, nobody asked for you.
Oh my God.
And they were very disappointed.
They were
They were
very
so disappointed. Also, don't swear.
Yeah.
And so looking at that, like, you know, is that, does nobody want me? Is that absolutely true? No. And then, you know, going and having a look and you know, finding creative communities, and with the help of our agent, like she was able to create like beautiful little events where we got to be with creatives and connect in such beautiful, intimate ways. And that's just, you know, for a second there, I was like, nobody asked for me? Like, you know, and you have that moment, that inner child where it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
And, you know, but like you say, like I just took care of her. I was like, it's okay, baby. And I have a very soft voice from that part of me. Like, you know, you are so wanted and so needed. And there are people out there who need this book, and we're going to find them for you. And we're going to do it on our own, you know? Me and James and Amanda, we're going to figure this out. And I have that very, because I do have a very strong emotional reaction to problems, especially when they seem like, oh, nobody wants you, or
the
that kind of
phrasing.
thing. You know,
We
I'm
don't
very
need you.
sensitive.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that impacts me. But then I realize it's a challenge to overcome. And I love a challenge to overcome.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm here.
You're so interesting because on the one hand, you're interested in transgression so much, like all that medieval like
love
porn and all of that
transgression.
sort of thing. And yet you love problem solving. So it's like there's this like mess it up and make it come down in a new way.
Yes.
You know?
Which is what I feel artists should be doing. Like, let's fuck shit up right now.
Yeah.
And then make something new.
Yes. Oh my God. That, I mean, that's
I think the fuck shit up is basically being done for us.
yeah, that's being taken care
But
of.
I want to fuck up the fuck up.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, I want to fuck the fuckery up.
Fuck up the fuckery.
Fuck up the fuckery.
Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I have this obsession with like, what rules are there? How can I break them? And so whenever I come up against something that feels like it's putting me into a, what do you call it, mold?
Right.
And then I get almost excited. I get pissed off immediately, but then I'm like, oh, but I could break this mold. And that's such a delight for me. And I want all artists, you know, we've been conditioned, you know, we've been conditioned to fit into the mold. Like Martha says, we've been conditioned, you know, to have these perfectionist narratives so that, you know, oh, you can create art, but only if it's perfect. You can create art if only if it goes through the right streams, only if it says something that's not too bold. Like, I want artists to, whenever they feel that, oh, you can, but only if, ... for you to be like, this is a fucking exciting opportunity for me to fuck up the fuckery.
Yes. I love that.
I like it too.
And I love the chapter on failure in your book and how you are an absolute champion at failure.
Yeah, let's fail.
And a long time ago, I realized that the people I knew who were very successful, like Oprah, for example, the thing they all had in common was that they had failed more than people who considered themselves failures. Yes. They had failed 5 times more often. So there's that, but then there is a surrounding ambiance that tells people failure is a crushing, shameful thing. There's a hardness to the culture, and you just said, you know, we need to be soft as artists, and I've been finding that I need to soften and soften and soften into my art, and it's so counter what I learned at Harvard. Everybody drink. Every time I say Harvard, drink. Water. So you can be both soft in your art and tolerant of the literal hardship that comes at you. You both are that way. You both have been just staying in there in spite of it all. And please tell us how that works. How do you do it?
James, how do you navigate failure?
Well, I mean, I'm very lucky that I never have to confront it face on. Well, I mean, I do because, you know, I've written novels that have never sold, and that was really, really hard for me.
Yeah.
But getting to witness Amy's always a few years ahead of me, which I find really helps me because I watched Amie be rejected by publishers hundreds of times. Like you hear about things like, oh, you know, you hear, oh, Stephen King, you know, he sent his manuscript out to 5 people and they all rejected it. I'm like, 5 people? Come on, like bring it on.
Pump those numbers up.
That's
Right.
nothing. Like literally we're talking hundreds and hundreds. And I remember, you know, Amie was trying probably for 7 years before she made any money from her writing, like really like genuinely trying.
Right.
And I watched that and I was like, I guess I have to put in at least 7 years. Like that's just, I'm probably gonna, I mean, maybe it'll happen before that, but I mean, watching Amie, the resilience that Amie had, and also like the tears, like there was a lot of tears.
Yeah.
It was really hard. It wasn't easy. But just watching Amy's ability just to get smacked in the face, cry for 5 hours, get back up again and try again was just like, I don't know even now, it's like you have this stubbornness, this obstinacy within you. And she's such a stubborn person, you know? And I need to draw on that energy because I'm not stubborn like her. Like I'm a pushover. So Amie has to, like I have to channel my inner Amie when things start going wrong for me, because Amie just will put a stake in the ground. The more you tell her no, the more she's going to say yes.
I love that. It reminds me of a quote from Jack Gilbert's poem, Case for the Defense, where he says, we must have the stubbornness to accept our gladness in the ruthless furnace of this world.
Yeah.
I also think it like interrupts the narrative that says you are either gritty and hard and you don't give up, or you are sensitive and soft and floppy.
That,
yeah, and to say no, you're going to be both, and that the destination of being in a true creativity is that it's going to continue to hurt. You're going to continue to have 5 hours of crying for every dopamine
time.
Hit of
We're
sales.
not getting somewhere. There's not an end to this.
Right.
The creative life is always a life of vulnerability, and you don't get to a point where it just stops being vulnerable.
Yeah.
If you do, something's gone wrong.
Right.
I really believe that.
I don't think you get to a point where the hardships stop
Yes.
hitting you. I mean, we know some very, very successful writers who did something that didn't go instantly to the top
hurts.
of the bestseller list and stay there for 8 years. It was only there for 7 years.
Oof.
And they get
get
catch
upset.
flack
Yeah.
for that.
Internally as well as
Yeah.
externally.
Yeah, like they actually feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a fallacy that like if I could only get so successful, then I will be immune to the
Yeah.
vulnerability of creating, the
Let's-
vulnerability of failure.
Let's wipe that one
It's
out right
it's
now.
a lie, and I think people are almost like that's what they're trying to strive for. It's like no, the journey is and always will be vulnerable, and you always will fail. I was on the Jay Shetty podcast the other day, and Jay is incredibly successful, and I remember telling him about how many rejections I get, and he looks me so earnestly in the eye and he goes, "Me too." And I was like, "What?" But we've got to remember this that everyone, like, no matter how successful you are, like, it's constant because we're constantly putting ourselves out there in a way that is vulnerable.
Yeah. I'm going to tell a little Jay Shetty story.
Oh, please.
And it's short, but it appertains. When he was in college, he'd just spent some time as a monk. And he was in college and he thought, I'm not sure I like the way people think here. I think we should all be more like monks. So he put up these flyers and said, I'm going to do a lecture called Be Like a Monk or Think Like a Monk, which later became a huge bestseller. And he showed up in the classroom and no one came. And he stood up in front of the class and he delivered his full speech to an empty room. He would not be stopped.
He put his stake in the ground.
Yeah.
I love that.
And Amie has that in her. And that's what, the amount of workshops that I've been to with Amie, like her first workshop she ran in Sydney, it was like me, it was our friend Mackie, it was like some random lady who had picked up a flyer on the side of the road. And that was it.
It's like, let's
And
go.
we'd gone to the shops and we'd bought like a whole kind of like cheese and charcuterie board, and we'd like set it all up, and we were so ready, and then
pure.
just like
Artists are
I don't know
so
how you
pure.
got to- I don't know how you got through that.
earnestness of us, the earnestness of us is so beautiful. And I just fall in love with all of us who are trying. We're daring to give a fuck. And I think right now, a lot of people are just opting to apathy.
Yes.
But artists dare to give a fuck. We dare to care. And again, I think that's why it's on us to create a better world, because we're daring to care.
I'm thinking about some of the research I've read on trauma. One was a study done on these kids who'd been on a bus that was hijacked, these school kids, a criminal, a terrorist, took over the bus. I don't know what he did with the driver, but he drove these kids for hours and hours and parked it in a cave in the darkness. And these were little school kids. And afterward, almost all of them had PTSD. But there were a few kids who would not stop saying, there's got to be a way out. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And they just kept trying, and they took the roof off the bus, and they got out, and it was still dark, and they're like, we're going to find the way out. They didn't suffer as badly in the after, and they kept the others sane.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and I think what you're asking us to do, if we can, is to be those people who say, no, I will not stop creating.
Mother, that's like exactly what I'm asking.
Yeah. I mean, I'm only here. I only exist because of my grandmother was in Auschwitz. She was in Auschwitz for 5 months.
Oh my
and
God.
my great grandmother, the same thing, 5 months in Auschwitz with a baby, with a 7-year-old.
Oh, God.
And that's all she did. If the Nazis said go right, she went left.
She just
If
broke
they
the
said we're
rules.
moving this block, she stayed. And then that's the only reason they survived. Like that's the survival mechanism.
Wow.
Otherwise, I think only 1,000 children made out of Auschwitz, and my grandma was one of them. And it was just that. It was that. It
I
was
love
like,
it. It gives me just full shivers.
Yeah.
I love it. She go this way, she went that way. Do this, she did that.
Yeah.
And that's the energy I want for us. And that's
Yeah.
what I think this is how we're going to make it through, and not just make it through, but make something better.
Yes.
Yeah, and still by refusing to harden, even
Yes.
in the
I
stubbornness.
wanted to come back to that, Rowan, because
Yes,
I thought what
let's
you
do.
said was really beautiful, because I think we have this image of like thick skin, harden. Like
Yeah.
we get it. I speak to a lot of artists, and I work with a lot of artists who have calcified themselves because of how vulnerable this is, and because the world is very, very difficult. They've become so hard, and it's very difficult to access. And I think we're told this story that that's how the artist will survive, but I think that's how the artist dies.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh God, yeah.
Exactly.
And I want us to be soft, and I want us to defend softness with everything we have. And I want this book to talk to the softness within all of us and to say, you are so needed, and we need you to stay soft.
And I don't quite know how you achieved that alchemy in the book of making these really ballsy demands
Yeah.
while also making the reader feel so held and so inspired.
Yeah,
Actually, it's a really weird kind of
thank you.
It made me want to ask about the whole topic of vocation, because your book doesn't read like somebody who decided on a topic and then did a good job with it. Yes, it's that, but it goes beyond. There's an alchemy to it that to me feels like something, and I go this way anyway, but something mystical almost, a vocation to keep alive the spirits of your readers. It's like you're going on like Florence Nightingale going through the ranks of wounded soldiers, going, this is my vocation, this is my vocation. I'm here, I need your art. I'm here, I need your art. And it touches so deeply because it has that deep truth to it. That,
Thank you.
and I don't know, have you always had it? Is that what it is?
What do you think, James?
I think because you were in so much pain when you wanted to be a writer and you wanted to be creative and you couldn't do it, I think you have this you want to be that mother for that version of you. I think that lives within you all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that gives you the heart that you think whenever you see a creative in pain, you sort of see that version of yourself as well.
Yeah.
That you often say to me, I want to be the person that I needed in that moment. And I think I definitely think you've developed that in response to that.
Yeah, definitely. Like I experienced like acute pain and a weird amount of shame for how badly I couldn't handle it. Like I could not handle regular work life. I could not handle doing labor for someone else. I could not handle what everyone else seemed to be able to handle.
Right.
I was acutely depressed in these work systems, and it was particularly work systems that really did a number on me.
Yeah.
And I was like, all I want to do is create. And I don't understand why everyone else isn't asking for the same thing. And I felt so alone. I was like, I have to have a life where I tell stories and I make things and I impact people. Why is no one else asking for this? And so I internalized that as there being something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And so this was my journey. And I think when I finally gave myself permission, when I finally understood that I'm being called, I've been called,
Yes.
the relief was just so profound. And like, how could I not give that to everybody else? You know, like we've all been called, like we have creative callings, like we're here to make stuff. And I knew it wasn't like a lightning bolt moment for me, but like it was like profound, and it sunk in probably over like about a year where I was like, no, like this is what I'm actually here for. Yeah. And that's what many of us are here for. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Since that revelation for myself, I have to keep talking about it.
So, this is beautiful. I do believe we all have a vocation. They did NASA did a study in the 60s that I keep citing where they tested people for creative genius, and they gave it to all these highly educated adults, and 2% tested as creative geniuses. Then someone gave it to 4 and 5-year-olds, and 98% of them tested as creative geniuses. Cool. And the researchers blamed the school system, but I think it's the whole society. And so what I want to ask you as a follow-up is, I believe everyone's born with a genius and a vocation. And you found yours through basically having the culture beaten out of you. And it either makes people hard or it makes people soft, and it makes most people hard. for people who are listening to this and going, I don't have a vacation.
Maybe we all need a vacation.
Dr. Freud, please. I was saying, I don't have a vocation. I don't have a genius. They've lost. I don't believe they don't have it. But is there a way to it that you two have found that can help people resurrect their knowledge of their own vocation?
Do you know, Martha, ironically, this is a huge amount that I learned from you because of your work with curiosity and and learning how to play again. I feel like is a lot of what I've learned from you, and having just that, taking that pressure away from needing something to be incredibly productive or needing it to be a job title that makes sense. Like actually just accessing that inner child and being like, what are you interested in? Which is speaks so much to your work. I don't know. What do you think, James?
I mean, I agree. Curiosity is just so. I mean, I think that I love the curiosity section in Beyond Anxiety. I mean, I think it's stunning. And to me, curiosity, and for both of us, I think curiosity is definitely very high up in my core values list. It's like probably number 1, maybe number 2. And it's just like, and I've kind of made that into what I do for Amie is often I read things and then I summarize them for her and to make sure, for the book we had to do a lot of research and Amie does eventually get around to reading these things, but I feel like I do the trawling through first. I follow my curiosity and then I'm like, Amie, you should probably read this.
James is a beautiful person to learn this from because I would say that you didn't feel a lot of purpose or like a particular calling, whereas I was so strongly called, and I'm grateful for that because but also it meant that I didn't get this like play time almost, which James gets, which he gets to follow all these different threads.
Can I just say something? So NASA did this study, right? But the only reason Marty knows about the NASA Creative Genius Study is that I found it on Instagram one day while I was scrolling mindlessly.
Yeah, well, exactly.
And I went in and I showed her my phone and I said, you'll like this.
What would we do without the two of you?
We
would have no cool studies.
We would have no cool
I say
studies.
my job is to read whatever I'm curious about at the time, and then it always ends up coming back. I mean, sometimes it doesn't, but it always ends up coming back, right? Like it's like you just follow that curiosity, and then eventually, I couldn't live a life without curiosity. I was living a life without curiosity, and it wasn't good.
I want to ask you something about that. Because Marty and I are like super woo-woo.
Yeah.
And so, and like when you say that, my little like inner like hippie person goes, oh yes, yes, because your curiosity is taking you in the direction that is, you're being guided by some sort of cosmic force. What do you think about that, mate?
It's hard for me. It's hard for me.
I thought it might be.
Yeah. I mean, I know you listen to Unpublished, so I know that this is why it's hard for me, because that's like a part of I always want to be logical, and I always want to be left brain, and it's really hard for me, and that's why it's been important for me to have art, because I get to crack open the right brain every day, and I get to write a fantasy story, but it's really hard for me not to be in the left brain.
But you know what's interesting is you had a religious upbringing.
Yeah.
Well, that'll make you.
I know.
That'll get you
Maybe
right off
you're
the
right.
scent.
Yeah, maybe that's part of why.
Can I tell a tiny story that's nothing? Well, it's tangential.
We'll
but
make it
Ro and I
relevant.
once went to see a woman who was performing at the same gig where I was, and she was a psychic, and she was doing psychic readings. And I'd seen her TV show, and I totally thought she was the real deal. She calls a woman out of the audience, and then she says, "Your father and your brothers are here." And the woman was Australian. And she said, the medium said, well, they don't believe in this bullshit. They say you're just being an idiot. Don't believe this woman. And she's like, they keep yelling that it's all bullshit.
The ghosts, the dead relatives, did not believe in ghosts. They were like, oh, come on, mate.
Come
That is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
That wouldn't be you, James. I feel like if you
No,
were a
I'm
ghost, you'd
trying-
believe in your own
I am.
ghostliness.
Like, I definitely do believe. I think I definitely do believe that. It is really hard for me to put, because I can't even conceptualize it with words, because I'm so like used to. I was in like
Just go with the flow.
I know
babe.
a lot like Marty. Like I was
just let the energy take you.
like the university was my safe space. Like I would have stayed at uni my whole life because it was so safe, right? Like you just read these books, you read these articles, and then you produce something that no one else is going to read.
Yep.
And then you keep going on that cycle. That was my safe space, and it's really hard for me to step outside of that. But Amy's always been really great with it as well. Like I feel like Amy's helped me to see the
magic.
the energy of creativity as well.
Yeah.
And I can see it. And I was going to say this for Unpublished, but we can do it now. But I was going to say something that I know that you and Tim Ferriss, I know you've been on Tim Ferriss a couple of times, and Amy and I are big Tim Ferriss listeners. And Tim often says the difference between 0 and 1 is just crazy. And like the difference in me, like the spiritual energy that I have from a little bit of creativity versus none,
Yeah.
it's like a different person.
Wow.
And Amy knows, she goes, you haven't written in a couple of days, have you?
Wow.
It's
She can just
so
feel
tangible.
it in me. And it's
Interesting.
such a huge difference. And I haven't written because we've been traveling, I haven't written for 7 days and I can feel it.
That's so
Can
interesting.
can you unpick that? Like what or you like what's it like
Well,
when
what do
he
you see in-
hasn't been accessing his creativity?
He's less soft.
Softness again.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's less soft. He's hardened. He's calcified.
Yeah.
And as soon as you write, there's a softness to you that is so like I can approach you and like I can be with you and we can co-create. Whereas like if you haven't created in a long time, there's more up here. Like there's a barrier, and the creativity act just like pulls it all away.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
wonder we need.
Well, remember
Yeah.
when we were first getting to know Liz Gilbert, Liz looked at Ro and said, Ro is like me. She's from the soft planet.
Yeah, we cry in puddles on the couch, with
Yeah.
blankets.
Yeah,
and
I'm a big crier as well.
We were just talking on the way
Yeah.
over about how much we
Do you
love
cry
to cry.
about
Oh, I used to cry constantly. My ex-husband called me Puddles.
that? No.
But that's because I was married to him. God bless him. Yeah, I don't cry as much, not nearly as much as I
It's
used
interesting,
to.
isn't it?
But
No,
I was,
sometimes you've actually been crying more lately, just about like, oh, I saw
I
a
cried
chipmunk.
yesterday.
Oh,
that
animals.
Oh my God! I was at the hospital and my son had an emergency. He was getting a pacemaker put in, and all these nurses and doctors came running in to help. And I stood in the hall and just sobbed. And someone came up to me and said, "I know it's really scary." And I'm like, "No, there's just so much love. There's so much like I saw all these angels who weren't getting paid squat who'd given their lives
How
to
beautiful.
help this man with Down syndrome that they did not know." And yeah, I cry for that, but I
Yeah.
also cry from self-pity a lot lately too.
Yeah.
Well,
interesting.
it's
The
a
last
nice
few days.
balance. You want to strike
Yeah.
the balance.
Yeah.
Got to have enough self-pity.
But
You do. I do believe that actually. I actually do believe in
I
self-pity.
I was interviewed by a psychologist, a male psychiatrist last week, and he said, our culture has stolen the tears from men.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
love to talk about that. And I was
Yes.
actually
Yeah.
just thinking this would be a beautiful way to talk about it because I've seen James cry maybe 4 times.
Wow.
Maybe less than that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I have a real interest in we need your art accessing men actually
Yeah.
and the vulnerability of art being available to men. And I think for you it's been I think it has allowed you so much softness, but you don't cry a lot.
No. And I think going back to, I've already shared a little bit, but I think going back to being third generation removed from the Holocaust, from a family that's had a lot of emotional pain.
Yeah.
It was always extremely unsafe. I don't think, no one in my family ever expresses emotion, It's like a very subversive thing. I remember getting in trouble for crying a lot when I was little.
Wow.
And I want to say I love my family and they're all lovely people, but that's definitely like, it's not a crying family. It's not an
Right.
emotional family at all. And I don't know if it's a gendered thing or not, because my sisters do cry. My sisters are probably allowed to cry, and it was probably maybe more
Should
focused on
inject
me.
you with estrogen. And just
I know,
wait.
right? And I mean, Amy was always I always thought when we first got together, Amy would cry every day. And I was like, oh my God, someone would have to die for me to cry,
Wow.
And I was like, who's died? Every day I'm like, who's died? Who's died? Who's died? And it was just shocking for me. It's taken years and years for me to be able to look at Amy crying and be like, okay, everything's
fine.
okay.
Yeah.
She's fine. And I think similarly for making art, I always felt like, and it kind of goes back to that, going back to capitalism. Capitalism is really good at exchange value. And I thought it's a very masculine virtue, it's very bad at experiential value. So it's like, I think I've very much internalized things have to have exchange value. Things have to have a monetary value for them to be worthwhile and worth you doing. And Amy and I often talk about how we think that we've been hit. Like Amy's story around art was, I feel like, I'm trying to conceptualize this.
Yeah.
Yes, please, you go. Take over.
I think we've been told really different stories.
Yes.
And mine was that I could never make money with my art, and that James's was if you were going to make art, you had to make money with it.
Yeah.
And so the mass. So I speak to a lot of men who are obsessed with monetizing their art,
Yeah.
and I speak to a lot of women who would never dare.
Yes.
And it's
Oh,
just a
that's
gendered
such a good
story there
point.
that's
Yeah.
really interesting. And so James was often like, "Why do you feel like it's rebellious to make money with your art?" And I was like, "Why don't you?" But for James, it's rebellious for him not to make money with his art.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think this is a nuanced conversation, and we get to look at both sides as a form of rebellion, I think.
Right.
But it is interesting because I do think it is a conditioning of our genders.
Right, but there's also kind of this cool way that you think that I know from listening to your podcast Unpublished, which like you also use the left hemisphere to fuck with the fuckery a bit. Like I'm obsessed with your, the stuff that you were talking about when you read, I want to say it's called Anti-Fragile.
Yeah. All been listening to that stuff.
And also the like keep it small, like how, capitalism will tell you if you've got some success, you've got to scale up, scale up.
Yeah.
And you can actually use the left hemisphere to say, is that true?
Yeah.
Is that absolutely true
Yeah.
that we need to do
Yes.
that? And so, when Marty in Beyond Anxiety talks about the brain, it's never this one's good and this one's bad, because we have to have both.
Yeah.
Or we can't make art.
Yeah.
And
It's a collaboration.
yeah, and also artists should eat.
We should eat, yeah.
Yeah.
Occasionally.
We should eat and we should thrive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you say that. Whenever we make a choice, like I do have that part of me that's, whether we want to call it ego, but like, when someone says, oh, if someone was to offer me like a podcasting contract, I'd be like, oh, that sounds really exciting. Like they want my podcast, like that could be so cool.
Yeah.
And then James is particularly helpful at this. Is like, yeah, but is that really, what you actually want? And simplicity for us is one of the most beautiful parts of what we do and how we create, and keeping things simple. It feels so rebellious.
Yeah.
And no matter how big we get, I want to just be fucking recording the podcast, not editing it, and just posting it immediately. And again, it feels like a form of rebellion to me. It's like, it's even more exciting. It's so delicious.
Yeah.
Like, fuck yeah.
In our podcast the other day, the doorbell went, and then Amy realized it was her medication. She had to go get it. So she just runs downstairs with the microphone, and she goes, and the whole conversation with the posties in it, and she gets up there, and
I didn't realize.
and she goes, we're keeping that in, right? It's just me talking to the microphone while simultaneously there's a postman talking, and we're like, we want to keep that in, not because we know it's bad, like we know it's terrible listening, but it's like I think it's important to show people that we live that, like it's not a laziness, it's like a conscious choice to be a bit weird.
Yeah.
I'm so inspired by that.
Yeah, I think you have to drill down and down and down through the layers into your authenticity, because I keep hitting layers of acculturation that happened to me when I was a tiny toddler, and it's I start to realize, that's been in there the whole time.
That's so interesting.
And I've been at this a few decades, and so the fact that the culture has layered me with so many, just peeling the onion. And when I get down to, as we've been talking, I've been thinking about the union of hard and soft, and then it gets down to the union of matter versus the non-material. Like when you get all the way to the center, what happens is you peel off the last layer, and there's this spaciousness in which your point of consciousness has decided to see things subjectively for the edification of consciousness as a whole. I know this is my own personal cosmology.
You're safe, James.
Consciousness is real, and no one knows what it is. All right?
Yes.
There you go. But so to go down and down and down until, I wanted to ask you both, has there been a moment when you felt like you were absolutely authentically yourself, not only in being, but in expression?
Yeah.
How does that look for you?
I feel entirely in my integrity right now.
I love it.
And that's that's in part to you, Marty. Like, your work has done huge things for me, but I feel so who I'm meant to be, and I don't know that I've ever felt like this, if I'm honest. It feels very, very good.
Is this happening to you too, James?
I feel amazing. Yeah, if I was just thinking about how I had a meta moment like 10 minutes ago, being like, oh my God, I'm on the Bewildered podcast. I'm in the studio, and I was like, and this feels like this is an amazing and cool way for my life to be going.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know why, I've really felt it very clearly for me the last few weeks. It's like I'm just on the path.
We were talking about this in the car, and tell them what we were talking about in the car.
So I was just saying to Marty, for myself, that I've had this very unfamiliar sensation for the past few weeks of having little to no anxiety, especially in the self-consciousness department, or just that general, very Australian, like shrink yourself down, be less, be unobtrusive and all of that. And it's sort of just lifted unexpectedly. And Marty was saying the same, that your anxiety, I mean, Marty doesn't have anxiety anymore. She's beyond it.
That's pretty much true. I was crying yesterday and the day before because I was experiencing anxiety. And I'm like, my whole book is a fraud. I'm not making anything. And then what happened was
I started crying about
That's true.
Not getting enough attention on my things. And then you cheered up a lot. It was
did.
great.
But it was because she pulled me into a new way of expressing myself. I'd been doing podcast after podcast interviews, all wonderful people and very privileged to do it.
book tour stuff.
Book tour stuff. And then it just went dead in the water. And I thought, all the creativity's gone. And now I'm anxious and I don't know how to create. And I was trying to push forward and it was like a boiled spaghetti noodle that I was trying to shove forward.
God, what a good image.
And then Rose started talking about how people need to have their anxieties addressed at a new level now. And we started talking about how could we do that, like put out more material that is not just for anxious people, but for people who are truly deservedly afraid right now. And suddenly all the depression lifted, all the anxiety was gone, and it was just like, chunk. We are in a very dangerous position. I feel no anxiety because it was my creativity moving me. It was, and this is what I was saying when we were having lunch. Your creativity is really not yours. It's a being, and it moves. You may have heard Liz Gilbert's story about how she was writing a novel and abandoned it, and then she had lunch with Anne Patchett, who was writing a novel with all the same plot details. So creativity is like a being that's moving through us. And I wondered when Ro was saying this, because I really have seen it, like just this absence of any kind of stress at all. And now you're saying the same thing. I'm feeling the same thing. Is this just happening to us?
Yeah, interesting.
And
is it because we have very important work to do, perhaps?
Yeah. Like, Amie and I have had this conversation. It's so weird that you guys had the same thing because we were literally talking yesterday about how neither of us have been anxious this week. I mean, Amie is diagnosed anxious. She's on
And I have
medication
my
for it.
OCD as well.
And
Like,
OCD, but like this last, and I have bouts of anxiety as well. And we're both saying this week, and I think it's because we're not anxious at all. And I think it's because we're on a mission this week. You know?
Yes.
We're here
we're on a mission,
in New York. We're here to spread the message. And that's what we're doing. And it's like, how can you be anxious? How can you worry about that email from the bookkeeper?
when it's such a
when
bigger
you're
picture
spreading the
here.
message,
Yeah.
you know, like it so obviously doesn't matter.
Yes.
I'm actually getting the chills.
But okay, so if you were going to design a human unit that had a mission to do, but you had to remote control it.
Oh my God.
Right? Hey, sci-fi just woke up here.
I'm a huge gamer. I'm like, yes, I can make a video about this.
Then wouldn't it make sense to keep them on the path that when they started to stray off, they get all this staticky anxiety, depression, and then you
push
get
them
back on.
Yeah.
And it's like the rumble strips on the side of the road
Yes.
there was a Tesla riding those rumble strips all the way. Sorry. And so like so just to what you're saying, like when you're on your purpose, that stuff goes away because you're obeying.
Yeah.
The Way of Integrity is such an important book, I think, for both of us, because both of us feel like at times we've almost felt disabled by our inability to not be in integrity. Like how sick we both get. We get so sick.
Yeah.
Like I've been like, the times when I've ended up, I'll just try office work. I'll try working in an office. Within a month, within a week, I'm sick.
Yeah.
I'm sick.
Physically.
And sometimes I feel like, what's wrong with me? But then sometimes also when I look back on it, I go, it's an amazing advantage in so many ways.
Yeah.
Like,
Both of us are so sensitive.
yeah.
Yeah, us too.
Yeah.
And so when we are out of integrity, like, and James is actually, I would say, ironically, you know, I'm famous for my sensitivity, but ironically, James, like, I've never met someone so sensitive to integrity ever in my life. And as soon as you are, and sometimes it's very, very difficult for James.
Yeah.
Because if he is like a little bit off, he's not okay.
No.
Yeah.
And that is very hard to navigate because like this is a difficult life, you know.
Yeah.
and
Because
you
you got to do your taxes. Like,
and like, well,
at
yeah,
some
but if
point.
something's not right, it's very hard for you. And again, it's a blessing, but it's very challenging.
I also think I love to snow ski. Only good thing about being raised in Utah.
Wait, are you saying just skiing? Are you saying snow skiing is
Snow skiing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Snow
Okay,
skiing.
like water
She
skiing.
just means skiing.
Okay,
Skiing.
great.
I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know where this came out. It's not even a thing.
But there's water skiing. You know?
Yeah,
It could be
okay,
water
sure.
skiing.
all right.
skiings. But if you're on a flat slope and you're going slowly, you can correct. There's lots of time to correct. If you are on a very steep slope in very difficult terrain, you're using high quality equipment, and every quarter inch of displacement takes a massive toll, and you could completely wipe out. So doesn't it make sense that if we're all given these sensitive, we were given sets of equipment. You know, here are your genes. You are born with this. You are born with this family history, epigenetics. I don't even know. You have high quality material. Now we're going to put you in some really difficult terrain. Now ski. Well,
That's such a great way to say
you
it.
have to be like, that was the one thing when I wired up my brain many, many years ago. I had my brain mapped, and I said I want my anxiety to go down. They were unable to achieve this, but
By the way.
but I could. I had to make this little arrow on the screen go down, and they said, we don't know how you make it go down. Just make it go down. And the only thing that flatlined my anxiety was thinking about skiing on the edge of a cliff in a blizzard. No anxiety. And the reason was that I was absolutely present. And what I've been feeling lately, and what I was thinking in the car is, yeah, we're suddenly free from anxiety, but we need to be absolutely present.
Right.
Like on the exact, you pick a line skiing, and you ski your line, and you've picked a line. You're going to reawaken people's art. You've picked a line. You're going to, what is your line?
Support Amie to
Yeah.
people's art.
And write amazing
Yeah, and
novels.
write
Yes.
great books.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And your line, you know, it has to do with your child and with
Community.
community
I
building.
see that in you, Ro.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Yeah.
getting really noisy in here
Yeah, I
about
bet.
community now.
I feel that.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, stop pushing your book, start doing this other thing. And I was like, oh, I'm back on my
You're
skis.
back,
I'm
yes.
back on my skis.
And that happened in real time. That was
saw it.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
You just went, "Phew."
I literally couldn't, like, we were going to do Pilates, and I couldn't lift my arms and legs. I was that dead. And then Rose started, you know, I was being sad about society, and we decided to do this other thing. And suddenly I went, whoop, and I went to this workout and like lifted more weight than I've ever lifted before in my life. It was,
So cool.
it's shitter champagne out there now.
Yeah.
And
I
both.
love
Sometimes
that.
it's both. A lot of the time it's both.
Yeah. I think this is the perfect way to describe both of us, actually. And I love that. I love it. I feel like I'm going down a very difficult slope right now, but I'm got the best fucking skis on, and I know what I'm doing. And it feels so good.
Yeah.
I'm tired, though.
Right? Yeah, we are.
Quads are shaking.
Yeah, my quads
Yeah.
are shaking. I'm like, I'm going to enjoy the hot chocolate at the end here. But like, it's so freeing and so beautiful.
I love that you two can immediately like grab the metaphor and start extending it.
Oh, yeah. I could've gone way
shaking, there's a
further.
hot chocolate. Like, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I love to ski as well. Amie doesn't, so she's always thinking about the hot chocolate.
I am focused on the hot chocolate. It's a beautiful feeling when it's going well, you know, but I've got a lot of fear on those slopes.
Yeah. Oh, it's scary as hell. And
No,
that's,
it's the surrender.
and that's what to surrender to doing exactly what your fear tells you not to do.
That's exactly what
to
it is.
lean as hard as you can in the direction your body screams is the wrong
No
way
wonder
to go.
you love skiing, Marty. It's the perfect metaphor for everything you do.
Yeah.
But isn't it for all of us? Like
Yeah.
the whole your grandmother, they said go left, she went right.
Yes.
Like I think that's the way to stay on our skis now.
Yes, I agree.
Anyone out there, we need your art. Read this book, and then like start feeling the pressure that comes on you when you're not in your authenticity and you're not creating, and like start finding your line and skiing your path. And because it's not just happening to the four of us.
No, it's not.
It's happening to possibly 12 or 13 other people.
Maybe. As many
Maybe a
as.
dozen of us out there.
Yeah.
And they're listening right now.
Yeah. I mean, we need your art
Thank
so
you, guys.
badly. And I'm so excited that Bewildered listeners get to hear you too, and we get to have you in the flesh here. It will not be, it's not the first time that we've talked all things Amie McNee on Bewildered. It will not,
Not going to be the last.
time. Yeah, but thank you both so much for
We are
coming on.
so grateful.
Thanks for being our friends
Yes.
for decades before we met.
Yes.
Oh, fuck.
You know, it's
There
so
it is.
full circle for us because we actually did a Way of Integrity episode of Unpublished. I think it must have
Yeah.
been just after it came
Yeah.
out. Like,
Oh, wow.
because Amy read it,
Yeah.
loved it so much, and then she was telling me about this thing that she did the challenge. She did the
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't lie
she
for
did the
ages.
integrity cleanse,
Yeah.
and she didn't lie for a few months.
Yeah.
We tried not to lie for a few
Yeah,
months.
I had to confess to a lot of lies.
And it was really transformational.
Yeah,
and it was
fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so this
so
is very,
cool.
yeah, I mean, it's obviously incredibly thrilling for us to be here.
Oh, thank you guys. We love you so much. And everybody out there, run, don't walk, or click and just have it delivered.
Ski,
Ski
walk,
down the
run,
hill
down
and
the
get
hill.
We Need Your
Yeah.
Art.
and
Oh.
that's the hot chocolate is We Need Your
Oh
Art.
my God, stunning.
Thank you.
What a place to end.
Stay wild, motherfuckers.
We hope you're enjoying Bewildered. If you're in the USA and want to be notified when a new episode comes out, text the word WILD to 570-873-0144. We're also on Instagram. Our handle is Bewildered Podcast. You can follow us to get updates, hear funny snippets and outtakes, and chat with other fans of the show. Bewildered is produced by Scott Forster with support from the brilliant team at MBI. And remember, if you're having fun, please rate and review and stay wild.